Perez, and this is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Thank you so much for being here. This show is created to discuss life topics, to challenge and transform your thinking. I have this amazing woman here today who I have fallen in love with, and her name is Brandy Hollaway, and she is the CEO and founder of The Phoenix Factor. After 17 years in the fitness and wellness industry, Brandy knew that her mission was to help solopreneurs and business professionals own their fire in life and in business. Social media, personal branding, and networking were the keys to her success. So she wanted to help others create a way to create an inferno of success in her brand, their business, and their network. And we have her here today to talk about who Brandy is, because your story, Brandy, is pretty phenomenal. All the things you have been through. And I love why you called your business the Phoenix Factor. So we're going to get into that. But before we do that, I would love my audience to know who you are a little bit. So if you don't mind just telling us a little bit more about you, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, thank you, Neena. So yeah, obviously I have the Phoenix Factor, came from a fitness and background, but I did that because I watched the women in my family suffering mentally, which also led to physical issues. And I didn't want to end up like that. And I've always been, as I call it, tell everybody I'm a hope dealer. I like dealing hope, not dope.
Right.
But I don't know, that mindset, regardless of what I was doing in life. And then I love networking, as you know. I love talking with people. And yes, I have a story. I have a lot of, traumatic things that happen. However, I can talk about them now the way that I do, because I see exactly how they've got me to where I am and got me ready. And I'm a single mom of two kick-ass little kids, 9 and 12-year-old, that just, are my complete world. And, my business partner and I have many, many things. And as you know, I'm kicking off my charity on my birthday this year,
Right.
to help girls and women that are coming out of abusive situations as well.
That's amazing. And, I want to touch on that too. I do want to go back a little bit because you mentioned it. You do have a story. And your story is pretty impactful, Brandy, because that's what attracted me to you to begin with, was that you were very real and authentic about it. You also, you don't hold any bars. You just say it like it is. And I'm like that too. And so I think like attracts like, so I want to know a little bit about that. Like, what got you to this point? Where was Brandy, before? What's up?
Ooh, well, I mean,
It's a lot, right?
I try to compact it. I literally am writing a book. I've been writing a book, and I tell everybody it's funny because I
Fantastic.
say I've been writing a book for 9 years, but it was really the cathartic journaling at first. So I've talked about this so many times, I can make it really short, which is, as I mentioned, I went through a lot of trauma and abuse as a child, as early as 4. And, but I wasn't really equipped with the coping mechanisms or the skills that I needed. And, just where I grew up in a small town in Alabama. And when I say a small town, we had one caution light. That was about it. We had a couple of stores. You had to drive 30 minutes, 45 minutes to get anywhere. So I got my ass out of there as soon as I graduated high school. But I was always looking for love in the wrong places. I was always looking for attention. I never thought I was good enough because of the things that had happened to me, and that just led to mistake after mistake. Bad relationships, bad business decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I always excelled at my job, though, and it was interesting. If I was working for someone else, I did really well. Anytime I did something on my own, I failed miserably, and it took me until my 30s to understand that I was sabotaging myself because of my limiting beliefs. And so, I had to start healing, going all the way back. As I mentioned, I was molested at 4. I was kidnapped at 6. I had gone through some, physical abuse after that several times, and also gotten into several relationships that were not necessarily physically abusive, but so verbally and mentally abusive. It's almost like I hate saying this, but I'd rather them had hit me sometimes. I know, and we go into those modes. The last one broke me. My last marriage, it broke me. I talked about that in the other interview that you heard. Was, I told everyone, if I didn't have my kids, I probably wouldn't be here. I went through a pretty rough year. I literally would be driving some days and I would just say, I'm just going to drive my car on this wall. It'll look like an accident. No one's going to know. And because I'm done. I'm done.
Right.
But that, that one day I had that shift, And I rolled down my windows. I turned up my radio super loud. Was driving down the road screaming and crying my head off. And I was like, I'm just so freaking tired of this. I'm done. And I didn't want to die. I just didn't want to keep living like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And literally since that day, everything shifted. I mean, I was still dependent on my parents well into my 40s. I mean,
Right.
it was that kind of thing. I was still dependent on people giving me what I could have always given myself, but I just didn't think I was good enough or smart enough or, any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I got to where I am. I mean, of course, there's a lot more to the story, but that's the
Yeah.
condensed version.
Yeah, and it's a powerful story, right? And you said a lot, you touched on a lot of things there that I think a lot of women go through. I know I did as well. I thought many times of ramming my car into a tree or off a cliff. I really did. And that's a scary place to be too, right? And you almost, like you said, I didn't want to die, I just didn't want to live this way, but you almost did want to die. You wanted to die to yourself, to that self, that person at that time, Sometimes we just want her gone
You
already,
want to
right?
burn that person.
Yes.
That's how you become the phoenix.
Right. And that's a good and hard place to be, right? Because you are realizing something has got to freaking change. But it's a scary thing to change too. And when you have kids, it's like a dual thing because you're not going to, or at least hoping that you'll never, put your car into a tree when you have kids. And at the same time, how hard is it to leave or move forward when you have kids? That's a hard thing too, right? Single mom is a tough job.
Mhm.
It's worth it, but it's tough, right?
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you a little bit about your self-sabotaging, right? How did you what were you doing that showed that you were self-sabotaging? What kind of things were you doing? Because you said when you worked for others, I had the same thing. That's why I'm like asking. When you worked for others, you were like on it, right?
Mhm.
But when it came to like working for yourself, so that says to me that you've had other businesses, right? And that
Oh yeah.
you kind of like messed it up or ruined it or it got ruined somehow. So tell me a little bit about that.
The first one, I was actually I lived in Dallas for 11 years and I'd been in Virginia, went to Dallas, came back. The first one, as I mentioned, I was in fitness and wellness. And that's when I think I started to recognize it because I had started an in-home wellness business. So personal training, nutrition, stretching, just all of those things in a pretty well-to-do community in Mansfield, Texas. And within a couple of months, I had 11 trainers working with me.
Mm,
We were doing really, really well. But the sabotage still came with it. Now, the sabotage came from me referencing before. I never believed I could do things on my own. I was almost kind of raised that way because the women in my family didn't even know better. They come off as so independent, and yet they never were independent. They always
mm,
depended on a man or someone else to do something. And I learned that. I learned that as the norm. So whenever I started becoming if I were to see myself as financially independent, it's like I didn't realize I was doing it, but I would begin to sabotage myself so that I would need someone. So someone would have to step in and save me. And I,
okay.
played the victim. And it was like I would point fingers at all of these things that were happening, but it was always my fault. And it's funny, I referenced this point in the book. This happened a while ago, quite a few years ago. But I remember my stepdad coming to me, and he had always helped me and the kids because I did go through bouts. And anyone listening, I don't want them to think it's wrong to ask for help ever. You should
Right.
always ask, but not rely. And there's a difference
Mm-hmm.
in those
Mm-hmm.
two. And I
Mm-hmm.
started to rely on it. And he's like, I want the best for you. He's like, but I'm not a cash cow. And when he said that to me, it just like, it woke me up. It was the
Yeah.
wake up that I needed. And I was like, oh my God, he's right. Like, I am kind of thinking, oh, well, if something happens, they're going to save me. And I haven't asked anybody for anything since then, which has been, amazing. But you have to dig really deep.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we're all honest with ourselves as a human being, I think we're all sabotaging ourselves in a little way,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was really it. And that business, when I came back to this area, I worked for other people. Like I said, I did really well. I was at a gym. I mean, I was grossing, I think I was probably doing a good 85,000 in sales in my first year.
Mm,
Um, as I mentioned, I did get married and I had already had my son at that time. But when I started the next business, I not only put my money into it, um, my husband at the time that I was, when we were married, and then I had investors. Well, I always thought this is a learning lesson. Just because you're good at something doesn't make you good at business. And I had already learned that. So I
that's
wanted
good.
the
That's
investors to
good.
guide me because they had a multi-million-dollar company. But right after my daughter was born and we had, I don't know how long we had, started this business, I found out, I mean, the infidelity was just immense. I mean, it wasn't like
Mhm.
a one-time thing or a one person thing. Like like I said, it broke me. And I was shocked because I thought I was happily married
Right.
and on my path. And so I attempted at that time to have a 3-year-old and an infant and run this business that I had, a wellness center with chiropractors and yoga instructors and nutritionists and
Wow.
personal trainers and all of this. And it just wasn't happening. I just wasn't functioning. And, my mom and my stepdad tried to help and my friends tried to help, but that was probably the deepest, darkest I'd been as an adult. Honestly, that's where I was talking about just done. And, just for waking up from that, that's when I started the Phoenix Factor. And I actually started the
Wow.
Phoenix Factor as the Phoenix Factor Wellness, because if you don't get yourself well, your well-being, your mindset, all of the things that go with it, and people get away from thinking that it's about eating chicken and broccoli and getting six-pack abs,
Right.
you're
Right.
never actually going to be well. So that's kind of where it
Right.
all started.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, you were in the wellness space, especially, like the physical wellness and like you said, the chiropractors and all that kind of stuff. You were in the wellness space. And I want people to understand that just because you are like physically fit and blah, 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 doesn't mean that you have it all together either. We do have to get our mental space right. I call it the mind flow, right? Like we have to constantly be flowing and growing in order to get to that next level. And you're right. You're so right when you said all of us self-sabotage, even if it's a little bit of something. And we do, right? And I don't know why we have that, thing that we all seem to do. I do believe it's limiting beliefs, right? It's the fact that something comes in to tell you you're not good enough. But the Phoenix factor is amazing because I first of all, I love the name because we all know that you have to rise up through through burning in the fire and the ashes to come back out. But what made you think of the Phoenix factor? Like, how did you end up shifting your mind? Were you um self-educating? Did you get a coach? Were you just like, this is bullshit, I need to change? Like, what did you do to actually have this happen?
I'll be honest with you, I can't answer that because I was in such a weird place at the time, but I do
Mhm.
remember making a post on my Facebook and I had the Phoenix Factor and I had a couple of other names. And I just was resonating with the Phoenix, of rising up. And, some of my friends that were really close to me, especially a dear friend of mine, we've been friends for over 15 years, Kay Ray, who went through everything with me. She's kind of been there, with all that stuff happened.
Oh yeah, we all need
Um,
one of those.
we talked about the Phoenix, but um, I just thought about the fact that I needed to accept that failing at something didn't make me a failure,
Hmm.
that what I needed to do was suck it up and learn from those lessons. And it was this series of events, like it was serendipitous almost, right? So it was like I was going to start the business. I ran into someone at a networking event that just called me on my shit immediately. Like I was like, whoa. I mean, he was like, I've been following you. I know you. He's like, but you're working at a level 7, not a 10. And I was like,
Oof.
ooh, didn't like to hear that. Super glad that I did. Right.
Right, right.
Then it was a series of networking events. And then I met someone else who was somewhat mentoring me. And he turned me on to a couple of books that I read. And in combination, one book that I have read for years and I continue to read because I learned something new is The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success from Deepak Chopra.
Mm.
Because as you peel layers, each of those laws will apply differently to you. And you can always keep learning from that. Um, but yeah, so I went with the Phoenix Factor eventually because I was like, you know what? I'm not going to BS my clients and like feed them all this fluff. I'm going to be honest with them. I'm going to use what I've learned and say, look, I failed because I wasn't willing to ask myself those questions or go out
Hmm.
and find the answers because I was scared of what that was going to mean. I'm not going to let you do that. So when I work with you, I want you to know you're going to fail. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you right now, you're going to fail. But guess what we're going to do?
That's
We're going to
awesome.
ignite your passion. We're going to burn through the limiting beliefs. We're going to burn through the challenges, and then we're going to rise up over and over and over. And that's when you accept that and you don't feel like a failure, it's a lesson learned.
Right.
That's where everything kicked in for me, and it kicks in for my clients. I can tell immediately when they have that, when they get over that little hump.
Yeah, that's amazing too. And that's a really great and straightforward way to do business because once you've already set them up for that, they know it's coming as opposed to you setting them up, like you said, with all the fluff, then it doesn't happen. And it just looks bad on you, Brandy, right? It doesn't look, they just think you just didn't do your job. But if you're letting them know off the bat, that's so strategic. I do that with my coaching clients. Same thing. Like, like you're going to totally not want to do this. This is going to totally suck, right? But you can get through this. And that's a really great way. So I would like to touch on who your clients are. Like, what kind of clients do you do with your business that you lead to success?
So it's kind of twofold. So we work with healthcare professionals, doctors, physical therapists, chiropractors, functional medicine, all of that area to help them build their business online and off and build communities.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have the tele-wellness community because, of course, after everything that's happened the last couple of years and
Mm-hmm.
what we've been going through with pandemic, we realized that doctors, burnout, there was a shortage of nurses and people needed a lot of help. And
Yeah.
Jen, my business partner, and I, having that background in fitness and wellness and nutrition, we thought, let's become the Angie's List of wellness professionals. Like, so we're going to vet these wellness professionals. We're going to take them through some mock or, situations and make sure they're ready to deal with that. And then we're going to connect them with the doctors that we're working with and say, hey, doc, sell this coaching package to your client. After your diagnosis, tell us what you want. We're going to connect them with the appropriate wellness specialists so that they can continue to be accountable
That's
and practice
wonderful.
their adherence to whatever the new program is. And then that way, in between those visits, because, even though someone may get diagnosed with high blood pressure or diabetes, they may not come back for 3 to 6 months or a year. What are they doing
Right.
in between? And a lot of them, we all know this, they throw their hands up in the air and they're like, I give up because there's too much information out on the
Mm-hmm.
the World Wide Web. There's a lot of bad coaches, really
Mm-hmm.
bad
Yeah.
coaches.
Yeah. There
They're
is.
not even coaches. They shouldn't be allowed. It should be illegal because they haven't really gone through the certifications to get that. And then there's some amazing ones out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just wanted, instead of just create clarity on what people are looking for, highlight them. So those are our clients, and then I take a very, very small amount of women that I coach to help them with their business. So
Okay.
I keep that pretty limited to about 5 women at a time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, just the health and wellness space is huge, right? So I can imagine that that is busy enough. But your social media content is pretty spot freaking on. Like, you know what you're doing, right? So it's not even just like connecting these companies with the health and wellness specialists. Like, you have a really strong social media presence as well. Do you do that as well? Do you guys do that yourselves?
We do. So that's
It's
really
awesome.
what we offer for the doctors. So we basically build their
Oh,
brand.
great, great.
We build their social media strategy on any LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We will train them or their staff as well. Because we tell everyone, once again, you need to be standing out in your community. You need to be a leader. You need to serve. And it's really hard for doctors, A, because they don't get any of that education in school.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
B, they can sometimes be a little stiff and not relatable.
Right.
So we try to get them, loosened up a little, but also explaining how you can use the social media opportunity to bring people to you locally. So, if you're not offering any type of telehealth or telewellness, like if you're a physical therapist, how do you reach people and get them coming in? You need to
Yeah.
collaborate with other people in your community. So we do full social media management, or we just create it and they post it. We do engagement. And then we talk about events, and just, once again, it's really about networking and creating your professional ecosystem. If I
Right.
were going to put it
Wow.
into a simple sentence.
Yeah, and that's, and that's really powerful because you're right. They do need that, and especially because the world is changing and everybody's online, right? Last year proved that. So also you talked about something you created for, did you say for women and girls? You said you created
Right.
something? Yeah. Tell us
So
about that.
So when I started the Phoenix Factor, as I mentioned to you, I was going to a lot of networking events, and I was like, you know what? I am so freaking over going to networking events and be like, oh, here's my card, let's connect. And then it just never happens. And you go home with a pile of cards, and
Right.
nothing really comes out of it. And I was like, I want people to leave with value. Like I don't know. I just want something to be there. And of course, my heart went to women because I saw so many women just kind of hiding and being scared to be visible, or being scared to own, as I use the term, own your fire.
Hmm.
So I started Girls on Fire 3 years ago as well, which was a networking opportunity. But what we did is we had the hot seat, and I would bring women up in front of everyone. And I was like, tell us about your business. tell us who you serve, and, let them know this is all out of love, but we're doing this so that you can get over this huge hump and go serve the people you want and make that money that you deserve. So, there was different things. A lot of them were in MLMs or in fitness, and they were constantly selling their product and not selling themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So little things like that. And it was a blast. So I decided to kind of mesh the two. So this year I turned 49 in September, and I want to do something huge for my 50th birthday next year. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to announce on my 49th, we're pushing Girls on Fire to a 501c. We're going
Oh, that's
to
great.
we're going to push to raise 100,000 a year to help girls and women coming out of abusive situations. My events will be free. You will donate to attend the event. You can attend online or live, and we're going to have events up and down the East Coast, and eventually, all over. And then just help these, like I said, just help these girls and women or other organizations. We may donate, give the money to them as well. But I just want to make sure the money's getting into the hands of these girls and women, and not a corporation that's having to pay
Right.
salaries.
Now, what's the goal though? Helping them with what?
So with the girls specifically, if they need to get out of that situation, maybe they're going
Okay.
off to school and they need support for college, or maybe they need a place to live and clothes and getting, help getting a job. I'm surrounding myself with other women that can coach them on, how to style themselves,
That's
how
great.
to go and interview for a job, to land that, doing their resumes, learning a skill set. We also, with the Phoenix Factor, if they're single mothers, if they're interested, we will train them to work for us to be a social media manager as well for our clients, so they can stay at home with their babies and still make money.
That's amazing. Wow. So you're like, that's really great because you're giving somebody skills that can't be taken away from them. And that's
Exactly.
a beautiful thing, right? It's
Yeah.
that saying, it's either giving somebody a fish or teaching them how to be fishermen, right?
Yep.
That's fantastic. So this book of yours, when is this coming out?
So
You
everybody,
know?
I've announced that this book was coming out several times. I mean, I could literally kick myself in the ass for that, but I I gave myself a time, a deadline this time, and it's funny, Jen and I were talking about it. So I was like, the book's been done. It really has. It has 10 chapters. It's been done. I think I was scared at the
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
because I put everything in there, put the good and the bad and
Yeah.
the ugly of my
Yeah.
life. And then all of a sudden, for me, it's like everything opened up for me this last 18 months. And I literally know that I'm being selfish because I know it's going to serve other women when they read what I went through and where I
Yep.
am now.
Yep.
I think it's going to serve them. And I was like, it's selfish of me not to put this book out because I'm worried about who's going to read it and what
Yep.
they're going to think. But I had that awakening this year. And so now, as you know, because you've heard me, I tell people, I don't care what you think. That's your
Right.
opinion, you know? So I don't live like that anymore. So I'm ready now. So it's just a matter of,
Good. Good.
I'm working with a coach who is helping me tweak the book, edit, and self-publish the book.
Yeah.
And then I'd like to donate the proceeds of the book, of course, to the charity.
Yeah, that's great. And I think I really like commend you for that. And I really love that you're self-publishing. I self-published. It was really hard. Best thing I ever did, right? Because you own it. It is yours. It
Mhm.
is yours, right? And so nobody's telling you, oh, I don't like the way that sounds. Oh, don't do that. Or that's, it's good to have a coach, but it's also good to hear Brandy's voice, because that's what people are going to resonate with. And I know what you feel with the, who's going to read it. I felt the same way, especially because my mother's still alive and we didn't have the best relationship. So knowing that this book was going to come out, I knew it was going to put a big ripple in our relationship. And it did for a while. But I realized that, me going to a coffee shop once and this lady stopping me and saying, "You're Nina Perez. Oh my God, I just read your book and this is what it did for me," and blah, blah, blah. That was worth everything, right?
Exactly.
Because even if you reach that one Brandy that's driving her car right now who doesn't know what to do, you've done your job. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, I always think about that. Who is that one lady who is who I used to be? Right. And so that's going to be impactful, Brandy. I can't wait for that to come out. I'm definitely picking that up for sure. So I also wanted you to mention your Clubhouse because it is powerful. Every time I get a chance to go on there, I try to go on there. So can you tell us a little bit about Clubhouse and why you decided to go on that platform?
Yeah, so I was so anti Clubhouse forever, and I was
Me too.
and I'm an Android user, so it wasn't even available to us, which I could have gotten an iPhone. I was like, oh gosh, not another platform, and
Hmm.
why? And I had some clients on there, and and then it came out, and I just was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try it out, you know. And I was like, holy shit, this is like, if there was any platform for me, I'm like, Clubhouse was totally for me because I can be, I mean, my kids can be here, I can
Hmm.
talk, that,
Hmm.
but you get in a room, I mean, with like the other day, it was like Glenn Lundy was in there. There was a bunch of other powerhouses. Grant Cardone was in there. And
That's
even if
awesome.
you aren't ready to raise your hand, even if you're not ready to speak up and tell your message, if you just simply tune in, number one, you pick up coaching that could cost you thousands of
Yeah.
dollars,
Yeah.
thousands and
Yeah.
thousands. If you just listen and have a notebook ready. For me, though, I've always loved to help people clarify and bring the freaking fire when they introduce themselves. And not that you've got to be like me and be, straightforward, truth bomb and all that. You still have your personality. So I
That's what I love
started
about you.
I started my room pitch slapped.
Yeah.
And
So
that
fun.
yeah, that's been a lot of fun. And I really just like going in and modding with other people. And I'll be honest with you, I can't think of one time I've ever gone into a room that I got to create value, which was amazing for me.
Hmm.
But I got so much value out of that. And that comparison thing that women especially do with each
Yeah.
other.
Hmm.
I think there are some clubs in there. It's a little clicky, but for the most part, the women that I've connected with, like you and Lolita and Molly, Dare, and like there's just and it's amazing. And these upcoming opportunities that I have are amazing for
Hmm.
me. And I've only been on for 6 weeks.
I know. I was like, how the heck? This woman is killing it. You're killing it. You're killing it. And I love that. I mean, because that's where I found you. I found you on Clubhouse. I was listening to you speak, and I don't remember what room it was in. I don't think it was Breakfast with Champions. It was something else. And you were so damn authentic, and you were just saying it like it is. And I was like, okay, yep, follow. Yes, comment. Like really resonate with you because you're really authentic. You're really real. You seriously are. And that's just who you are. And I love that about you because you're like that. Yes, on social media, but you're also the same exact person on Clubhouse. And the thing about Clubhouse, right, is that we don't see your face, but you can hear the tone of voice. You can hear what somebody's actually, if they're BSing you or not, right? Because you can kind of feel that energy and you know. And
Absolutely.
so, you just seem to be the same everywhere. So that's why I resonate with that. When I see that a person is different here than they are there, then I just unfollow because I don't have time, you know, just like I don't have time.
I hear you.
But but I'm really happy that you decided to come on Straight Talk because I've been wanting you here for a while. So I'm glad that we have become friends online and that we found each other because this is an amazing time for us to connect and to, really reach out for each other. And, you being on my podcast, which is growing, which is great. Yay! It just hit like 4 or 5,000 downloads or something. So I was super
That's
excited about that.
amazing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, yay, announce it. But the only thing I got ripped about with my coach was like, who are you, Neena? You're not on social. Who are you? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, there's nothing personal. And you know what it is? I don't have time. Right. So sometimes he wants me to just record a quick video and do something so people can see me. But I use Clubhouse for that, really. That's my room is on there. I'm connecting. My room is growing. And I'm like, okay, I'll be more personable on social media. But
It is
Brandy, you're
true.
amazing. Yeah, it
It
is
is
true.
true.
You know what? It is true because when I see your videos, when you go on there and talk about like real stuff, when you start breaking things down to us, because you'll say, okay, these are your tips for blah, blah, blah. And you just break it down. I'm like, okay, I just feel like I know you. I feel like we've connected and I feel like I know you. So it is true. It is. And I
Mhm.
know I'm speaking to like the social media queen right now. So,
Wow.
you are, no, really, your content is probably the one I look for the most. Every
Oh,
time I'm
thank
on,
you.
yeah, it's true. Every time I'm on LinkedIn, I put on my little, the little search button and I look for Brandy Hollaway. And then I go on there and I'm like, okay, got it. Yep. Good, good, good. Tips, tips, tips. Yeah. We're one of the first people I look for.
Oh,
That's real.
amazing. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I
That's real.
really appreciate that support because that's what matters for me. It's not the likes and the follows, but it's truly connecting with everybody and
Yeah.
knowing, like I said, just that you're creating value. And like you said, if you're just helping one person a day, you're making an
Yeah.
impact.
You're doing it. And you are because you're impacting me. So if it's the one person a day, You got it.
Awesome.
But Brandy, before I let you go, I would really love it if you tell my audience where they can find you and follow you and all that. Give me all your handles, please.
I make this really simple because, I have the 3 different entities, actually 4, I
Mhm.
have myself as well. So it's really easy. I have a bit.ly link. It's bit.ly/creating an inferno, because I tell everyone I like to create an
Okay.
inferno of success. So creating an inferno. If you look for me, just remember it's Brandy Hollaway, not
Right.
Holloway.
Right.
And the
I love
Phoenix
that.
Factor. So we're everywhere, just about everywhere you look.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me because this means a lot to me. So I appreciate you very
Well,
much.
thank you for the
Very
opportunity. I love
much.
it. I love
Oh,
it.
it's
Thank you.
awesome. And guys, thank you so much for listening or watching, however you decided to do this. But don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Make sure that you leave a review. I'll make sure that I have Brandy's information linked in our show notes so you don't miss anything and so that you can be as impacted as I am every day when she puts out her stuff because it is awesome. So if you're not doing it already, you're missing out. So get out there. This is Neena Perez. This is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Until next time.